Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly, before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Hey, welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod. I'm your host, Josh, and today I don't have any co-host with me because I have a very special guest. His name is Dominic Pace, and he was featured as a bounty hunter called Gecko in Star Wars The Mandalorian, the pilot episode. I guess it's also subtitled as Chapter 1. Yeah, we talk about how that character name has come about. It's sort of like Prune Face in a way. It's a kind of a name that's been developed by the external community, not exactly, the people in charge of the show. But he actually tells me about that and gives the story on how he kind of got his name going and how he's been being very active on social media with the whole thing. And this guy is a solid Star Wars fan. Like, unlike most of the actors on the set who have probably not even seen the whole saga, or even seen a single Star Wars movie. Dominic Pace has been a fan to the core since he was a kid. It's what got him into the acting world. It's what's brought him all the way to the set of The Mandalorian. And what started off as a simple makeup test turned into something much larger for him. And I'm so excited to have the opportunity to have chatted with him. So thank you again, Dominic Pace, so much for your time. Let's go chat with Dominic Pace.
Another happy landing.
Dude, congratulations in your part on The Mandalorian. This is like super exciting.
I am beyond excited. It's obviously, I've had 100 credits over the course of my career, 20 plus years. And this is just in a category in and of itself. It's not even so much an acting accolade as it is just a childhood dream come true. And I think every Star Wars fan is able to relate just in that regard, It started as a simple makeup test, and that really is what kind of threw me because I wasn't expecting, I almost kind of gave up on the dream because a lot of Star Wars productions are filmed in England, they're filmed in Australia, and more often than not, it's just not a possibility to have it kind of motivate yourself to be able to get into the project. It just has to call you. And It ended up happening, and it was just beyond words. So it's just still kind of taking a deep breath. We're a little out of focus last night in the first episode, but still, just to be still established in the universe is beyond words. I'm just really excited and heavily anticipating an episode that's coming up very shortly to where hopefully that's where all the action and all the fun is going to happen for my bounty hunter there.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're in more than one episode then?
Oh, I hope so. Yeah. If I was out of focus and just that was it, it would be a little bittersweet. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Between the trailer and as a matter of fact, that shot in the trailer, I think there's going to be probably in another episode as well. So we'll be featured throughout. But it's this one specific situation to where it really was the money stuff. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, just because it's one thing to be in Star Wars. It's another thing to have action, because I think, especially us as boys and girls growing up in the 80s, the excitement of Star Wars was about action. And ultimately that was the most important thing. So I can't tell you how excited I am. I can't give any spoilers away, but let's just say some exciting things are coming up there for the bounty hunter there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We'll circle back to your character on Mandalorian, but I just want to quickly ask you, like you're a Star Wars fan to the core, right?
Oh man, since I was 5 years old, the first thing I remember was a Cantina playset. My mother got she was a single mom, so we didn't have much money. So those 12 figures, we didn't have social media at that time. So we had such a bond, I think, with our toys at that age because there were not too many distractions. So between those original 11 or 12 figures plus the Cantina playset, it just had a real profound effect on me as a child, not to mention watching Empire Strikes Back when I was 6 years old, where George Lucas was so ahead of his time,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think just growing up in the 80s and then carrying that out until 1983 to where, Return of the Jedi came, which was such an awesome, follow-up to Empire Strikes Back, especially at that time I was about 8 or 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then those figures too, that whole Jabba play set and all the little side characters, to me just again and it was also a time where I believed in Santa. So that kind of made it a little bit more magical as well. So just a lot of amazing memories that go back a long time. And then even going up to the prequels and going through, the new sequels now, I've just been a lifelong fan. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it was only earlier today that I saw, I don't know how old it was now, but there was a clip of you showing off a massive display of Star Wars toys. Was that at your house, and are those things all yours? And
that is correct. I actually have it. I'm looking at it right now. I actually have it separated to where I have the 6 original bounty hunters, which were my original figures as a kid, plus my favorite. People say, "What's your favorite collectible?" I love that Icons line. That they had about 10, 15 years ago. My Luke Skywalker saber is up on top. I have a friend of mine from Ohio who actually went ahead and made a Funko Pop figure of my character, which again is just amazing to me. That's the next dream. And hopefully we'll be phase 2 after these next few episodes air. Hopefully, God willing, my character will get a figure, but you just never know. One of my favorite blasters is the Han Solo blaster. So I have a replica of that. A 12-inch figure of Billy D. Williams, signed and personalized to me. Personalized autograph by Tamura Morrison to my 2 sons. My first original comic book. I have a couple of dioramas, and on the bottom, I have a couple of dioramas. Those packaged ones they did a great job with of Cantina aliens and some of the people on the skiff, and they're a tribute to the side characters. So just to be one, I wanted to have like a little cube to honor them, because hopefully we'll be immortalized alongside them over the next couple weeks there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's that's the thing about Star Wars. Like even if a character's in the background and they don't have any lines, but I mean, all legends start off like that. I mean, like look at Bosk, IG-88, Dengar. Like they're all Zuckuss, Forloom. They're all bounty hunters that have absolutely nothing to say, but they're there. And then the fandom goes by, and the stories get built through books, comics, video games. The toys, the visual dictionaries. They get backstories. It's amazing like how deep some of these characters go, and even if they're in the movie for like a couple seconds. So
you bring up a really good point, because I'm always careful who I speak with, because some people there, and I'm like, I'm featured, and I've got a little bit of this, and I've got a little bit of that coming up. And, you talk to the Star Wars fan and they're just like, oh my God, because that you can have the figure and just everything that you spoke of. But then when I talk to people outside, I've guest starred on numerous shows, and they're like, wait a second, what are you? And I'm just like, no, you don't understand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, most people outside the fandom are they look at it as like, oh cool, you're in Star Wars, and oh wait a minute, which one are you again?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, no, it's no, this is fantastic. Like to everyone in the community of fans that know exactly the importance of this kind of role. It's pretty cool, and your character looks amazing, by the way. It's a fantastic costume.
Thank you so much. That's a tribute. I'd like to just call out Brian Sipe. Brian Sipe is from Legacy Effects. He headed up Drax for Guardians of the Galaxy. Legacy Effects is one of the most legendary makeup prosthetic companies in Hollywood. They work with Marvel, Disney, all these major motion pictures. I went in for a simple makeup test. I'm a blue-collar actor. That's what I've been saying, and that I take any job. I will have my agents at times, say, Dom, you got to hold out just for a guest star. Otherwise, you're not going to climb. You've got to hold out for series regular. Otherwise, you're not going to climb. Just like in high school, I was just never that guy where I needed to be part of the cool crew. For me, I would hang out with the cool guys. I would hang out with these guys or that guy. It didn't matter to me. And it's the same attitude that I have with work. It's just a New York mentality. So I take everything. If I'm not working on one day and there's a job that, there's a job offer of something, I will do whatever it takes in order to provide for my family. So this was a simple makeup test that most actors at my level would not do. And I had no promise at all that there was any future work from it. I just hit it off as a friend with Brian, gave him my business card after about 6 hours. I was in the chair, very patient. I had previous experience doing photo double work on Van Helsing. I was with Frankenstein, and I was with Hugh Jackman and a dear friend of mine, Will Kemp. We did a film years later together called The Midnight Man. And then I was also an orc in Bright with Will Smith. So the thing is that half the actors actually will get claustrophobic. Jim Carrey actually hired a Navy SEAL in order to teach him patience to go through an extensive makeup process, because his was about 6 to 8 hours. Mine took 2 hours in the morning, and it took an hour to get off at night. But he gave me the most extensive, which I was so honored to have, because obviously, hopefully, God willing, by next year it'll be an action figure. And I'll tell you, I've been joking around, but I'm dead serious. To me, that's more means more to me than an Academy Award, just because the reason I got involved in this business was because of the fantasy world, because of all those great 80s movies we grew up with, in terms of E.T. and Goonies and Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Back to the Future, all those kind of fun films, not to mention John Hughes, of course, as well. But the fantasy world was the reason I got involved, in terms of escapism and in terms of just trying to have people kind of have that level, that escape when I perform. And to me, that means more to me than any other project, and even sometimes the craft of acting itself.
Yeah, for sure. And just to be part of like that legacy, have that Star Wars title attached to your name now. It's it's forever, right? And it's something that you love, and now you're a part of it, which is awesome.
I can't tell you. I just want to call out the fans. I've never received this amount of gratitude and love. And again, we're talking about a featured side character, and thank God it's I think it's amazing that it's a one-of-a-kind bounty hunter. But still, I can't tell you how many shows I've done over the years. And I mean, I might get 1 or 2 shares, being on NCIS or Cold Case, even with a really nice guest star. But I mean, the Star Wars fan base has just embraced me. I posted something. I had a coin created of my character, and I posted it about an hour ago. I'm going to be a millionaire in about 2 hours. I'm going to sell out of this thing literally in a couple hours, just because the fans are just absolutely amazing. And I can't wait to embrace all of them throughout a convention tour next year. Really excited.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, if you don't mind my asking, how did your character name? How did that come about?
That's a great question. So Brian, when he was doing Drax over in doing Guardians of the Galaxy, he was over in Atlanta for quite some time. He did 1, 2, and 3, and then whatever the spinoffs were with Bautista there. He was with him the whole time. He must have created over 100 prosthetics, literally maybe per film, for Bautista, because they're not able to reuse them. Each time he had to go into a sauna to have it melt off him. And I think they got it down to getting him in his costume, I think, in about an hour each day. They kind of mastered it, which they kind of did with me as well, where they already they created the paint on the crown of the prosthetic. But basically what it was, and I have it posted on my Facebook page. I also answered a question today from Twitter, because somebody was like, well, is that official? Is that an official name, Gecko the Bounty Hunter? So what ended up happening was he did this Greenpeace project, and there's a female model that he modeled after a gecko, and the model had 2 humps on its head. Now you got to imagine this. This is hilarious. So I go to wardrobe, and then he said, Dom, I'm going to give you the most extensive makeup. He gives me the 2 humps on my head. Looks very much like a gecko. He gave me the same paint style as he did his model from 2 years prior. So I go in. This is a screen test in front of Filoni and Favreau. I'm like behind this moisture farm, or in this moisture farm, to where they've got a little bit of special effects behind me, and they just want me to walk around. They want me to, kind of just stay in character, kind of this imposing and tough kind of presence. And the 2 bumps were there, and they wanted me to reveal myself because I have a blue robe, and so they wanted me to kind of do that Luke Skywalker Jedi thing, right? So there were a couple other bounty hunters, and I poke fun at myself with this, because they're all cracking up at me, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, all right, these 2 humps. I said, no offense, Brian, and he's like, what? What's the matter? I said, I got to tell you, I said, this is kind of like borderline. They look like boobs. I'm not gonna lie. I said, I do not want to be a Star Wars meme the rest of my life. So it was not my decision. I mean, it was Brian and Filoni and Favreau, but I just said, please, I'm 6'4", 260 pounds. Is there any way you can make this a little bit more badass by Monday? And at first he was hesitant, and then, he understood. And like I said, I think somebody else was kind of snickering when I took the hood off. So he adjusted it to horns, and the horns just look completely badass. And again, a 6'4" bounty hunter. I got the shape of Kane Hodder from who played Jason in Friday the 13th. So I think that's pretty cool, and hopefully will be a really cool figure for the extended series as the Mandalorian merchandise goes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. How was it like working with Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau? Do you spend some time with them, or?
Sure. Well, yeah, I mean, it was a very, it was tight quarters on set. Well, first of all, just 2 amazing stories I'd love to share with your listeners. I had the privilege my first day. It was Jon Favreau's birthday, but who was there? None other than George Lucas and Kathleen Kennedy. So that was really special to walk into the cantina. I was actually one of the first to walk into the cantina. and just having his arms folded was Lucas. And it was really quite something, I think, as a Star Wars fan, somebody who is basically, you know, part of your dreams and your imagination.
That must have taken you a moment, you know, to soak that in. You must have gotten weak in the knees or something, eh?
I really did, to a certain extent, and it really was something. At the same time, you know, I've been around, you know, A-listers for quite some time, so you have to understand, you have to stay professional on set, and you have to make sure. So it wasn't like a meet and greet, but at the same time, it was just such an honor. The other thing that was really special, and I wish I could have shared it with every Star Wars fan, was that I was presented with a prop table with about 20 blasters, and I got to pick my own blaster as a bounty hunter, which to me was absolutely amazing, just to be able to have that opportunity to select my blaster. Of course, I wanted to go with the biggest one, even though we had 15-hour days, 16-hour days of filming. Yeah. It was about an 8-pound blaster, but I said, man, you know, for the figure itself, I gotta, you know, kind of suck it up here a little bit and go ahead and get that
for the fans.
Filoni and Favreau, amazing leaders, just so pleasant, so peaceful. There was a book I read. One of my odd jobs used to be restaurant management, and one of the terms in terms of just being a good leader is constant gentle pressure. And that's what I would associate Favreau and Filoni with, in that they would guide. When Filoni was directing the first episode, and then I had the privilege of working with Deborah Chow, to where every now and then Favreau might pop out and just have a little tweak or a little adjustment. But you can just feel just this effortless, pleasant feeling on set, which I never felt before, to where just everyone was in sync. It was like a very tightly run ship, and of course, Disney was going to get the best of the best from the first AD to the second AD, but just everyone was on point. And it was just such a pleasure to be a part of a production like that, where there was respect from everyone down to the feature bounty hunters to the top of the food chain there. So it really was such a pleasant experience. Filoni and Favreau, you just had that feeling that you want to grab a beer with them. They just have this pleasant smile. They're the ones who ultimately approved my look. I mean, God forbid, they could have just said, no, we don't want this look. They had to do a cut. After this cantina stuff that you see within the first episode, they had to do a cut for the following week, and I made that cut. And that was because of Deborah Chow, who I'm very grateful for, along with Filoni and Favreau. So I owe them a lot, and I'm so grateful, of course, to Brian Sipe and then the costume designer, Richard Apora, for doing just such an amazing job with my costume, because then, unfortunately, about 10 people got sent home.
Oh, man, that would have been a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, still, you know, of course, you still get that cantina stuff, but it's like, you know, getting your consolation prize. If all I had was these out of focus shots from episode 1, I mean, granted, I'm so honored. At least I'm immortalized to a certain extent, but I want this juice that you're gonna see pretty soon, and I think hopefully they got a few good shots of me there. So really excited.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm looking forward to seeing possibly a 6-inch figure show up and on the shelf, Black Series or something.
Please, your mouth to God's ears. And I have so many friends that already have taken initiative to create figures, and kind of like a wink to Funko and to Pop and to Hasbro and all that stuff. So fingers crossed. You know, when you're dealing with a TV series, just like I have worked on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I played a Kree on that for a few episodes. You just don't know what they're going to do when it's a TV series, or how much they're going to extend the merchandise line. But I'll tell you, I mean, the fan support of just, you know, the illustrations, the people that have just been doing all these different pieces of art of my character, hopefully that's going to resonate within the merchandising company. And
yeah,
group.
For sure.
And I think it looks like a pretty cool figure, if you ask me.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. Was it Star Wars that got you into acting by any chance, or was it something else?
Ultimately, yes, because the music of John Williams, it pulled at my heartstrings when I was a child. And in terms of that level of expression, seeing the sense of urgency and the passion from people like Harrison Ford, the music of John Williams, the conviction, and also the emotions of what, you know, pulled out. I mean, even, you know, with Spielberg's movies, with E.T., just to have that emotion as a child and to want to be a storyteller to a certain extent in that light as well. Absolutely. I starred in my high school musical Grease. I played Danny Zuko, and I was there was about 1,000 people in my high school auditorium, and they were screaming and yelling my name. And I'm a good singer. I'm not a Broadway singer, but that alone gave me just an incredible high. More than sports at that time. I was always a baseball player. I love baseball. I love pitching. I love striking people out. But there was nothing compared to that adrenaline rush I received on stage. And starting at 18, I started off Broadway, and then 2002, the rest is history. About 100 credits from this point. We just guest starred on a popular American show last night called 911 on Fox, and then we'll be on a new Fox show called Deputy with a nice guest star January 30th. So all good things in that regard. But But literally, I'm really excited to genuinely almost take a year off next year and just bond with the Star Wars fans, brand this character, and also be involved in a tremendous amount of charities. For me, giving back is very important. It's something I've done throughout my small career, and it's something that I want to do on a higher level right now, being that we have garnered this level of attention here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just you tell me these stories. It reminds me a lot of like the symmetry you have with Samuel Jackson. Like Samuel Jackson got to pick his own lightsaber, you got to pick your own blaster, and then he just you know what I mean. Like there's a lot in common there with that story.
Absolutely, and you as a Star Wars fan, I could hear it in your voice. What broke my heart was I was amongst actors and obviously professional, and obviously they did an amazing job. But it just broke my heart because I knew that so many other Star Wars fans would have just had the same glee and joy. I had to contain myself because a lot of times, people are sitting, there's that old movie Big with Tom Hanks, and Big, he ends up getting his first paycheck as a grown-up. It's like $167, right?
Yeah.
And he's freaking out because he's just like, this is like the most money he's ever seen before. But like John Lovitz is in the next booth and he's like, yeah, this place really sucks. And so for me, it's like the same thing. I'm not saying anyone had a negative attitude, but nothing compares to a diehard Star Wars fan of embracing every single moment on set. For the 15 hours, people were like, well, were you in pain when you were doing the makeup or spray? I was in my glory from start to finish. And there was no other job I've done in my life to where after the 16th, 17th hour, I'm sitting here just high as a kite because I'm in my glory, being on the set, our beloved set of Star Wars,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh man, that must have been surreal. Yeah. Yeah. By any chance, is your favorite Star Wars movie Return of the Jedi?
No, it's Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back. Okay.
Yeah, for me, what makes Star Wars so special is the mythology, which I thought the teachings of Yoda obviously are so beautiful and so inspiring, no matter what age you're at. And then also, Star Wars is about family. So for me, I came from a broken home, and I just recently realized that Lucas had a problem with his father in terms of wanting to go a different path. But for me, it's was the same thing where my father and I, we get along now as friends, but we didn't really see eye to eye when I was a child. And that's a beautiful thing about sci-fi and fantasy. For me, it's not about the pew, pew, pew and the lightsabers and the ships, even though they're really awesome to look at. It's about the depth of the characters and the stories that parallel to life. And for me, that father-son bond and that father-son conflict is basically pouring out to the reality of life. They had a simple version of that. And recently, I went with my sons to go see the Lego movie a few years back. And it was kind of the same thing where, the son is kind of playing out his relationship with his father through this movie. So things like that to me really resonate because it connects us to the human soul and the human journey in terms of our life. So Empire Strikes Back for me, I thought was just the best, hands down.
Yeah, it's very deep. Do you did you ever listen to the podcast? I believe it's Making Star Wars or something. It was like almost like a biopic sort of based podcast. It was unabridged, and it was kind of it was based on George Lucas's life and how he got Star Wars Episode 4 like off the ground back in the 70s. Yeah, it's a fantastic podcast. Like I highly recommend it. But yeah, you should check that out. It really kind of hits home with all the inspiration that kind of he had and like you said, like the issues that he had with his father going a separate direction than what his dad wanted for him. It's all in there. Like it's all covered, and a lot of the stuff, like I had no idea that any of this stuff happened, and how he was in a massive car accident and such and such. But yeah, it's fantastic. You should check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, at that time, I think even Alec Guinness didn't want to do sci-fi because it was deemed. I did a B movie last year. It was a sci-fi movie for the Sci-Fi Channel for Asylum, and a lot of times, sci-fi is usually associated with just kind of like a B-level movie, especially at that time. So, I mean, what he had to break through must have been just absolutely amazing. But obviously, how grateful we are that he did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Him and a lot of other people who were, extremely successful at the time. I mean, like Peter Cushing, well-established actor, and he was featured in Star Wars, and it's crazy because Star Wars was, everyone thought it was going to be such a failure of a movie, and then when it came out, it just wowed audiences. So were you there for any of the first screenings, or were you too young?
No, I was there for Empire Strikes Back when I was 6, but I had the Cantina playset, and I was listening to the music, I remember, on a big record player at the library. So that was when I was initially introduced to it. And then I remember the Muppet Show would have like, you know, I mean, they would have like their cameos and things like that. I would recall that. But ultimately, I think it was the action figures. And my mom has this, it was a big 13-inch comic book that is just holding together now the best it can. But that was how I was initially introduced to Star Wars. But the first experience was a packed theater at 6 watching Empire Strikes Back. And that, to me, I still remember every moment of it. And also just a compliment to Harrison Ford. You know, he was one of my greatest inspirations, not only Indiana Jones, but the legendary Han Solo, where he had charm and charisma. And he was just such an alpha in so many ways. And I think, you know, Hollywood has just kind of gone awry with that, to where I'd love to see male actors do that again, to where, you know, they take charge and they have that charm and they have that charisma. You know, now it's just so sensitive in terms of one issue or the other. But he was just so magical to me in every single way. And that was something I always wanted to model in my performances throughout the years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Is there a role that people can watch you in to get like a good sense of, you know, your character, that like if Harrison Ford is such an inspiration to you, is there a role that you brought kind of that inspiration to the board?
You know, it's funny. I mean, it really was a low budget situation there. I starred in a film called Megalodon last year. It actually got horrible ratings due to the fact that they tried to stuff a $100 million budget in a $50,000 film, you know, and that's pretty much all that they had. But if you go on my IMDb, I have a handful of different clips. And some of those things I'm proud of in terms of just some of my work throughout the years. I do have a sociological thriller that I'm starring in next year that I'm very proud of, called Anonymous Killers. And that deals with a lot of situations in our country in regards to those who come from privilege and those who don't. And everyone's going to have their own opinion on it. There's really no right or wrong answer. But that's going to be coming out early next year. And I'd love people to check that out. But for now, if you YouTube or you IMDb my page, you'll see some of my reels there as well. So absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. Is there a way that fans can, what your social media wise and connect with you in a way?
Absolutely, and I've been so grateful. I've been getting so many compliments from everybody, and what people don't realize is like I'm one of you. I'm a fan right now. Yeah. So interacting with the fans just means the world. Forgive me if I don't get back right away. It's just been crazy the last few days. But Dominic Pace, on whether it's my personal account or the fan page or Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn, always happy to reach out. And of course, if anybody has any questions, always happy to answer. I love this voice command now, so I don't have to sit there with my big thumbs and type. It's great where I'm able to voice command a message and also leave messages for fans, and also voice notes and stuff, or videos to, you know, if it's somebody's birthday or something like that, just to cheer them up. That's the thing I'm most excited about, is just the positivity of the Star Wars community, to where I'm a part of that, to where I'm able to touch somebody in a positive way. It just means so much to me, especially now later in my career, where I can do another 100 crime dramas. But it just, for me, it's more fulfilling to be part of what I loved all along, and that's the Star Wars universe. Yeah,
absolutely. And, you know, I mean, if there's anything I have to say about this, like, you know, Dominic, Star Wars, like Lucasfilm, needs more people like you on the set.
Thank you so
people
much.
They need more people like you in characters, and just like fully really soaking it in, just the full, you know, the importance of being in this franchise, and being part of that inspiration for future fans and stuff, because this is going to go a long way.
Absolutely. And that was the first thing I was thinking about. I had this one moment in the cantina where my face was turned away from the camera, and I just wish I could have had every Star Wars fan who was enthusiastic be part of that moment, because it was this first time that it was a 3-dimensional experience. And I was remembering my toy playset as a kid and thinking I'm inside my own playset right now as a character. It was just the weirdest, most surreal feeling ever. But like I said, for me, it's about sharing, and I hope that other Star Wars fans, real Star Wars fans, get a chance to experience that as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh man. Well, Dominic, thank you so much for coming on and chatting all about your experience on The Mandalorian. This is fantastic. So congratulations again. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. No, I'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye. Dominic, thank you so much for your time with us right here on the show, talking about your story as this bounty hunter on The Mandalorian. I really hope that the fan community drives the name Gecko forward into the canon, and I really hope all the best for you and your career and your role as Gecko, that we see Gecko again, that you have the opportunity to return as that character on screen with some dialogue and with some action. That would be fantastic to see. You're an awesome guy. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on the show and for sharing these stories with your fellow with the fellow Star Wars community and your fellow fans. It's one thing to chat with somebody in the industry who's been acting, but it's a complete unique experience to talk with someone like yourself who's been acting on behalf of a love for Star Wars and being a reason that you even got into acting in the first place. It's something unique, and it's something that should not go unsaid. That we need more people like you on the set of Star Wars acting out these roles, because I feel like we don't get enough of that. We don't get enough people fully appreciating the scope of what they got as a role on Star Wars. There's a lot of actors that haven't even seen a Star Wars movie that land one of these roles. So, on behalf of the fan community, I want to congratulate you and thank you for your time and for your role as Gecko on The Mandalorian. It's an amazing feat. So, thank you. And for all those listeners out there, follow him on Twitter. Dominic Pace has a Twitter account. His handle is @DominicPPace on Twitter. He's also got these really cool collectible coins. He's got listed on there with his face on it as Gecko. Super cool collectible items, so check those out. We got a Twitter account as well. It's @SW Escape Podcast. So follow us up, shoot us your questions, comments, feedback, share this podcast with your friends. It is completely based off word of mouth, so your support is greatly appreciated. So I want to thank you again, Dominic Pace, for coming on the show. Thank you to all you listeners out there. Thank you for listening. And go watch The Mandalorian. The next episode is out on Friday. May the Force be with you.